Alright, so this video is part 2 of my friend Allred's Bachelor pad makeover. So if you didn't check out the first video already, that has the before and after of the place, as well as tons of cheap DIY decor and wall art ideas, so you need to check that video out for sure. In this video, I'm just going to share a few more of the thrift flip projects I worked on for the place in a closer up way, so if you wanted to copy any of these ideas, you'll know how I did them. So I'm going to share with you how I made some concrete look-alike lamps. I embellished some stools and some pillows, and how I embellished some mirrors for the wall. Alright, so one of the items I needed for my friend Allred's place was a pair of lamps. This wasn't something that he had really, and he has good overhead lighting in the house, but you still need some mood lighting or task lighting for reading and stuff. So I found a pair of lamps at the thrift store, just kind of a neutral shape, and then a pair of these lampshades that are a little bit more tapered. Now I think this tapered shape is actually kind of fun, so I'm kind of excited to see how these turn out. All I'm really going to do to these, I'm just going to spray them with this multicolored textured sand spray paint, and it'll give them a little bit more of a natural texture like pottery. So for some reason I didn't film the rest of this lamp project, but it's very similar to what I did to some thrift store pots during my restoration hardware video, which you can also check out. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to rub on some of this cheap Dollar Tree wall spackling onto the sandy texture of the lamps, and it's going to hold it on well because of that sandy texture. After I let all of that dry, I'm going to go back and paint the lamps. Now for my restoration hardware pots, I used a really thick black paint and I didn't thin it out at all. But for these lamps today, I'm going to go ahead and use mostly water and just a little bit of black paint and kind of lightly dab it on with a sponge, and then that way I'll get almost the look of concrete, with some areas being a little bit darker and other areas being more translucent. And I think the shape and concrete texture both look good in the final room. Then I also picked up at the thrift store this fun little basket. I liked the weaved detail of it, but what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to paint this outlining trim and the handle and the feet all black, just to give a little contrast with the weaving that's in the middle. And then I picked up a couple of stools too that can stack on top of each other. And what's nice about this is it doesn't take up a lot of space, but it will provide a little bit of extra seating if guests are over, which I know is something that Allred's probably going to use at some point. I'm going to actually end up upholstering the top of this just to add a little comfort to the seating, and then I'm going to paint the legs black. And already I think those legs are gonna look better and more cohesive in the space. And I like the way this basket looks with that black border. I think it makes that weaving detail pop out a little bit more. I used that basket in the final room by the fireplace as a blanket holder. Alright, so I brought my stools in with the legs painted black. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little padding to the seats. So I have some of this leftover mattress topper foam from another project that I'm going to use a thin sheet of to cover the top of my seats, and then I'm going to staple some of this really fun fur to the tops of these seats. Now I kind of like this rustic looking fur. It kind of looks like it comes off of a yak or something. And if you've ever tried to upholster something round before, you know that it can be hard to get the fabric to look nice around a curve. But with a really fluffy textured fabric like fur, I don't think you'll even notice any of that bunching of the fabric at all around this circle shape. After I take these legs of the stool off, I'm going to go ahead and take the seat and trace it twice onto this foam and cut that out as the padding for the seat. And then I'm going to trace 2 larger circles onto this fur material, and I'm going to actually draw the circle about 1.5 inches out from the circumference of the stool cover. Cut that out, and then I'll start assembling this together. I'm going to use some hot glue and go ahead and attach my foam temporarily to the top of the seat, and that'll just make it easier to upholster the top. I'm going to center that seat on top of the fur and then staple it around the edges. Then once that's complete, I'll go ahead and attach my legs again, and this stool will be complete. You can definitely find stools like this at Ikea. These actually aren't Ikea brand, but I'm surprised that they aren't because they look exactly like ones I've seen there too. And these stools fit perfectly under the window in Allred's living room. So I had some of that fun fur fabric left over from the stools, and I decided to embellish this pillowcase with a little bit of it in doing kind of a triangular design or pattern. I'm going to go ahead and fold this square pillowcase in half once diagonally, and then in half again, and then I'm going to create 2 triangles out of my fur that are exactly this size. And then I think I'm actually going to use fabric glue to adhere this fur onto this other pillowcase. And I think because of the fur, it's going to be a little hard to sew through it and not get things tangled with the sewing machine. So I'll try the fabric glue and see how that works out. And what's nice is with these fluffy edges with this long fur, you're not going to be able to really tell how it's adhered to this pillowcase. And here's that fun fluffy pillow in the room. I think it adds more texture and ties in with the stools. Alright, so in Allred's house, for the wall that's above his couch, I wanted to put something that was pretty neutral and didn't really distract from the rest of the room. So I had all of these mirrors that I found at the thrift store the one day that are just white, square Ikea mirrors. I got them really cheap and I bought 6 of them. And what I'm thinking is I'll hang them in groups of 2. I have these leather strips that I had also bought at a thrift store. If you watched my Thrift Flip video, which I'll put a link to, I found a whole bag of these for $2 at the thrift store. My idea is that where they join here, I'm going to put a couple of these leather strips, kind of like that, and then I'm gonna just go ahead and hammer them down in place with some of these gold thumbtacks. All right. So I'm gonna push the thumbtacks through the leather first, like that, and then I'll try to hammer this in place. I'll cut a couple of these in half. And you don't have to use these kind of strips like I'm using. I don't even know what these are meant to be for. You could just buy bulk leather. You can buy them in a mixed bag off Amazon and you'll get all these like scrap pieces, and you can definitely cut strips of leather from these too. I'm just taking the easier route with this project and using these that are already nice and clean on the edges. And then I'll just center these strips again on the tops and bottoms with the flat side facing the edge of the frame. And it'll look something like this. So I'll have this leather detail and then some of this gold detail too. And here are those mirrors in the final space. And that concludes the projects for today, but make sure you check out the Bachelor Pad Makeover video for more on this project, or you can check out other videos on my channel for cheap DIY projects.